Mike Mayo, Exile on Wall Street, one analyst's fight to save the big banks from themselves. In Exile on Wall Street, one analyst's fight to save the big banks from themselves, Mike Mayo offers an insightful look into the workings of Wall Street and its deep-rooted issues that prioritize self-interest over ethics. In his journey as a banking analyst, Mayo discovered that bank examination must be driven by a sense of civic virtue and detachment from the banks being monitored. However, the reality on Wall Street tells a different story, as it often pressures analysts to compromise on their principles. In this summary, you'll explore Mayo's experiences on Wall Street, learn about his interactions with high-profile bankers, and follow his unwavering commitment to maintaining transparency and integrity in the banking sector.
Wall Street's lack of ethics. Mike Mayo started his career in banking examination guided by the industrious values of his immigrant family, where civic virtue drove his work and detachment from the banks. He became a chartered financial analyst while working at the Fed and admired former Fed Chairman Paul Volcker's belief that regulators are responsible for keeping the financial system safe and steady, not for helping banks make money. Both of them refused to cater to special interests in their work. On Wall Street, self-interest often prevails over ethics, and Mayo witnessed how the overriding desire to make money could lead even the most stalwart individuals to cut corners to make a deal. Despite being put through hell for his principles, Mayo held firm and was eventually proven right. The huge amounts of money on Wall Street make it easy to lose one's way. Mayo's story is an eye-opener exposing the unsavory side of the banking industry, which has faced repeated criticisms for its lack of ethics. A Wall Street rebel. Mike Mayo's journey through Wall Street is captured in this book. Mayo started as a Federal Reserve economist, then transitioned to a junior analyst job in Union Bank of Switzerland, UBS, where he built his reputation through the development of analytical models. His reports were often unfavorable, which did not settle well with senior bankers, colleagues, and bosses. However, Institutional Investor named Mayo one of its all-star analysts in 1997 and top regional bank analyst in 1998. Mayo left Lehman Brothers in 1997 to head the bank research group at Credit Suisse First Boston. Here, his forthrightness won support from some colleagues, but it also drew disapproval, the opprobrium of banks and financial media when he advocated for a wholesale sell-off of bank stocks. Some bank executives began denying Mayo's requests for meetings, while others threatened to pull their business from his employer. As the market for bank stocks dropped and a wave of financial sector mergers swept up Credit Suisse First Boston, Mayo found himself without a job in 2000. Mayo's crusade for independence. Mayo's career as an independent investment analyst at Prudential Securities began just as Wall Street's malfeasance exposed the skewed assessments of companies by several analysts was rocking the industry in 2001. Mayo was unyielding in his criticism of Citigroup, and in 2002, he testified before the U.S. Senate Banking Committee to highlight the heavy bias towards corporate clients as opposed to investor clients. He believed independent investment analysts were on the front lines of holding corporations accountable, which was crucial after the financial creativity that led to the fiscal crisis. Mayo's fearless approach led to tense moments, like when he was publicly criticized by Jamie Dimon, CEO of Bank One, for his negative write-ups on the company, which drew media attention before ultimately being resolved. The 2008 financial crisis, a cautionary tale. Mayo's skepticism towards Wall Street and the financial sector's lack of transparency was vindicated by the events of the 2008 financial crisis. Banks strayed from their core function into peripheral activities that spread risk, leading to the maelstrom. Mortgages were packaged and resold to investors, but risk exposure remained hidden. Even after the crisis, banks remained opaque about their exposure. Mayo highlights that risky loans, aggressive banks, and inept regulators are not the exception but the rule, urging us to be more skeptical of Wall Street. Mayo's fight against financial recklessness. The book mentions Mike Mayo, who remained bearish on financial stocks back in 2007. He was critical of the industry, which made his bosses uneasy, leading them to prohibit him from talking to the press. Mayo criticized Citigroup, which had shown a pattern of financial recklessness throughout history. The bank had always plowed resources into the particular asset or strategy that seemed to be working until the enterprise collapsed. The book depicts Mayo's struggle against the bank's executives for not disclosing data on its exposure to subprime mortgage-backed securities. Mayo believed that regulation was not the solution, and he advocated for letting the market forces work. Finally, the book shows Mayo's fight against the cone of silence, which allowed bank executives to control information without facing external criticism. Mayo believed that we needed a better version of capitalism that would require cultural or perhaps generational change. Mayo's insights on the financial system. Mayo, an investment analyst, believes that his work centers on the value he provides his clients. Despite hedge fund manager John Paulson's offer, Mayo declines since he values the significance of his work over financial gain. Mayo highlights risks in the financial system and acknowledges the government and market's incapability to effectively regulate it. Regulators tend to prevent past issues from occurring instead of anticipating new ones. Mayo advocates for a change in the financial industry's culture represented by ABC, accounting, bankruptcy, and clout. Mayo suggests that accounting rules should prohibit balance sheet tricks and require better reporting and auditor objectivity. Banks need to experience failure as a consequence of imprudent risk-taking. Banks should also devolve power to boards of directors, analysts, and regulators.
As Mike Mayo's Exile on Wall Street portrays, the financial sector often falls prey to its own risky maneuvers, self-interested practices, and lack of transparency. Mayo explains that the prevalent issues within Wall Street can be remedied by implementing changes in industry culture, focusing on better accounting and disclosure practices, allowing banks to face the consequences of failure, and realigning the balance of power between bank executives, boards of directors, analysts, and regulators. Although Mayo's fight for financial integrity has faced numerous challenges, his persistence and dedication to his principles have proven time and again that he can make a lasting impact on the future of the financial industry.